I'm joined by Stephanie Palmino, a student here at Quinnipiac on her way to receiving her doctorate degree in nursing. She started her nursing career back in 1969, and now, almost 49 years later, she is pursuing her next goal. Thank you for being here.
It's my pleasure.
So I want to get started and ask you what prompted you to start for your doctorate degree now, and why at Quinnipiac?
Well, it's an interesting story because I became a nurse back in 1969, and it was kind of my last remaining goal. And when I was just about to turn 70, I got elected president of the Connecticut Nursing Association, and I thought, if I'm ever going to achieve that goal, I better start working on it now because my time is running out. And I had wanted to have my doctorate in nursing. There were many other places I could have gone for my doctorate, for a doctorate, but not many offered a degree in nursing to somebody who graduated from a 3-year school, as I did back in the 60s.
So I read that after graduate school you had the chance to be involved on international research. Could you speak a bit about what that was like to be on an international level?
Oh, that was so exciting. When I was doing my master's, I had a professor, and I worked as his research assistant because that's how I paid for my graduate school, was with a teaching assistantship, a administrative assistantship, and a research assistantship. And then when I graduated and was working at the Harlan Valley State Psychiatric Hospital, lo and behold, he was there, and he was about to start a study on depression in long-term psychiatric patients. And he asked me if I would come and be the co-coordinator of the research project. And as we were working on his, there was another study that was kind of associated with it, with a Dr. Barry Gerland in England, and he was doing sort of a collaborative study. So I got to work on both, and we had papers published and things of this sort, and it was very exciting. So what I was learning in the class, I learned so much more after the class when I was actually working with him.
And you also ran in public office as well. What made you decide to make the transition into politics?
Well, I hadn't actually made that decision. My husband and I were at a veterans event, and the two people who were there, one was the incumbent and one was another, both GOP candidates, asked me if I would consider running for the seat of one of the people who was about to retire. And I said, well, I never even thought about such a thing, but I don't have the finances to run a political campaign. I said, oh, Rory, we'll take care of everything. And I was saying to my husband, boy, that's kind of exciting. I think I'd like that. He said, you can't run for a seat. You're a Democrat and she's a Republican. I said, drat. Okay. And then my own party asked me to run, and I thought, a great experience. I didn't win, and I really didn't have any expectation of winning as a Democrat in Greenwich, which is a very Republican town, although this year could be different. Okay. But it was such an exciting thing, and I wrote an article about it for the Greenwich, I forgot if it was the Greenwich Patch or the Greenwich Free Press or something like that. It was an online article talking about what a great experience it is to run for public office, because most of us say we believe in this or we believe in that, but we don't really have to defend why we say we feel the way we do. When you're running for office and you're talking with people and knocking on doors, you really have to stop and think about why you feel you believe in something. And I hold some pretty strong beliefs on things like social justice and health equity and things of this sort. And Greenwich is a very forward-moving town, but it's also a conservative town. So there was a lot of defending. And in writing the article, I think it's such a wonderful thing for people to run for public office. And I think we need nurses and doctors, more nurses, I think, in public office, because I think nurses are the one profession that really has a very overall view of the healthcare system. I don't know if you're aware of it, and I wouldn't think most people are, but I think nurses are the only profession that have to learn about every single other healthcare profession in the course of our basic studies. And I think that's why nurses are so good at case management, care planning, discharge planning, is because you really see the whole picture and you have to use that whole picture.
When you started your career back in 1969, did you ever think you would accomplish all that you have today?
No way. And in fact, I think that's how I started my keynote speech on leadership, is I would probably be the least likely person you would ever have thought would rise to any level of leadership ability. I came from a broken home, spent time in an orphanage when my family broke up. My marriage broke up. I went back to college when I had 3 little children who were, I think, 3, 4, and 6. And the college I went to, St. Thomas Aquinas, had a program that very much catered to adult learners coming back to school, which is partly why I didn't take a degree in nursing and took it in gerontology instead, is that I needed to take a program where I could kind of bring my family into it. And they had a terrific program. They also were teaching teachers. So they had a program where if you had children, you could bring them to school with you. They used the children as the students for the student teachers.
Oh, that's a wonderful
idea. It was
idea.
wonderful. It cost me nothing. I got through all my child care because my youngest was only 3 years old at the time. And it was a phenomenal opportunity. And I met so many mentors along the way. And I've said in many cases in my nursing curriculum, I regret to say that not one of my mentors was ever a nurse. So I made it my mission that I was going to be that mentor to other people along the way. But how I rose to achieve some of the positions I achieved was an enigma to me. I don't know. I think some people saw things in me I didn't see in myself. And like I remember the first time I had to do public speaking in front of a class. My tongue was stuck to the roof of my mouth. My hands were shaking. I was absolutely terrified. And then that professor, who was an elderly nun, took me with her to Washington, D.C., where there was a gerontological conference, and all the people who were presenting were the people who had written our textbooks. And she knew them all, and they came over, and I was presenting a paper. And I was terrified, and I'm thinking, what am I going to know? What am I going to say to these people? But there was Sister Mary smiling up at me, and I kind of focused on her, and I took courses in diction, or I think it was diction. I'd wanted public speaking, but it wasn't available, so I took diction, and he was a wonderful professor. And now I do public speaking all the time, and it's almost like an out-of-body experience now. And I think to come from where I was then to the ease with which it comes now, it truly feels like an out-of-body experience. You put a microphone in my hand and it's like I step out of me and there's some other person saying what has to be said.
Do you have a favorite memory over the course of your nursing career?
Oh God, so many. When I think now that I'm achieving what was my last remaining goal, I have to have a new final goal. So I'm thinking I'd like to write a book, and I keep thinking, after almost 50 years of nursing, I have so many experiences, so many memories, from children to adults. A favorite memory, oh my goodness. Favorite memory. Well, I think a lot of them go back into pediatrics. We had one little baby there who had been badly burned, and I had wanted to adopt him, but of course he already had parents. They weren't very good parents, but he had parents, and that was memorable. But I think if I think of memorable experiences that were not necessarily happy, it was my very first nursing job, which was also pediatrics at Memorial Sloan Kettering, the cancer hospital. And there you lost children every single day. And to this day, I have a little jewelry box of the little macaroni jewelry and the little trinkets that the little kids would make for you. And I can remember every single one of those children and their parents.
So I know you also want to teach after getting your doctorate degree. Is there one lesson that you're hoping to give every single one of your students before they enter the nursing profession?
I would hope that that what I would pass on to people is be a mentor. What you learn, you have to give back, whether it's to individual people or to public service, that we owe a debt. All of us, we pay for what we get, we work for what we get, but there are also things that come to us that perhaps we don't have any right to feel we deserved, and we all have things to give back, and I think that's a major lesson, is we need to pass it on. I may be 70, but I don't feel like my time is over. I still have a lot more I want to do and to contribute.
Well, I want to thank you for taking the time to sit down with me today and for Q30 News, and we wish you all the best of luck.
Thank you so much.
Your doctorate degree.
Thank you. I'm enjoying it immensely. What a wonderful school and a wonderful program.